Lawrence, Kansas, 22 years ago on November 2, 1983. Dean Winchester, a 4-year-old boy, says goodnight to his baby brother Sam Winchester, along with his mom and dad. Mary Winchester is lying in bed when she hears Sam crying on the baby monitor. She goes to investigate and sees someone standing over Sam's cot. She assumes it's her husband, John. However, she sees the lamp flickering and goes downstairs and realizes John is actually sleeping in his chair by the TV. She runs back to Sam's room. John Winchester is awoken by her scream and runs to Sam's bedroom, but the baby is alone. Blood spatters from above on his hand and Mr. Winchester looks up to see his wife pinned to the ceiling by some unknown entity. Her body bursts into flames and the horrified father grabs Sam and gives him to Dean. He orders Dean to take Sam outside as fast as he can, then rushes back to try to save his wife. He's too late, however, and the flames completely consume the room, forcing him to flee the house. Sam's room explodes moments later. Stanford University, present day on Halloween. Sam is now grown up and going to a Halloween party with his girlfriend, Jessica Moore. He talks about an interview he has on Monday for law school and that his family doesn't know, because he is not close to them. Later that night Sam is in bed with Jess when he hears someone break in. He fights the shadowy intruder until he realizes that it's Dean, his older brother. They haven't seen each other for 2 years. Dean explains he needs Sam's help to find their dad because he's missing after going on a hunting trip. The pair steps outside to talk and discusses the family obsession to find what killed their mom. Sam is reluctant to continue the crusade. He wants a normal life, but he does agree to help Dean find their dad. Sam asks what their dad was hunting and Dean opens his car trunk and shows newspaper clips. He explains men are vanishing from their cars on Centennial Highway. 10 are missing over the past 20 years and it's happening more. Dean plays Sam a voicemail from their dad, saying that something big is about to happen and they all are in danger. It also has EVP on, but Dean has cleaned it up to hear the hidden message, "I can never go home." Sam reminds Dean if he goes, he has to be back by Monday for his law school interview. Back inside, Jess finds Sam packing and he makes an excuse his dad is hunting deer with a few guys and got carried away. He's going to just bring him back. Jess reminds him of the interview and worries what's going on. Jericho, California. Night. A teenager is driving down the road when he sees a woman in white standing alone in the dark. He pulls over and she gets in. She acts seductively, teasing the guy and asking him to go home with her. He says hell yes and heads where she directs him. When they arrive, the house is derelict and she tells him "I can never go home," before vanishing. He gets out and looks around, but gets spooked and jumps back in his car and drives away. When he looks in the rear view, she's in the back and he freaks, crashing through a barrier onto a bridge. The car stops and Troy screams and blood splatter in the windshield. A garage somewhere. Next morning, Dean and Sam have stopped for gas and Sam accuses Dean and their dad of credit card scams to pay for their hunting. Dean doesn't deny it. Sam then tells Dean he needs a better selection of music in his car, to which Dean replies, "House rules, Sammy." Driver picks the music, shotgun shuts his cake hole. They drive off and they pass a sign for Jericho. Ahead, they see the bridge where the guy's car crashed the night before and lots of cop cars. Dean pulls up and takes out a fake ID and the two brothers question the cops posing as U.S. Marshals. The cop says he knew the latest victim, named Troy, and that his girlfriend is putting up missing posters, but they have no leads to his whereabouts. Downtown, Dean and Sam find Amy, policeman's daughter, and tell her they're his uncles and are looking for him too. They go to a diner and she explains he last spoke on his cell from his car. Rachel, Amy's friend, is there too and brings up a local legend about a girl who died on Centennial Highway whose ghost hitchhikes and the drivers who has picked her up disappears. Later, Dean and Sam search the net for news items concerning deaths on Centennial. They find an article about a woman who committed suicide after her 2 kids drowned mysteriously. It seems Constance Welch jumped from a local bridge back in 1981, the same bridge where Troy's car was found. The bridge that night, Dean and Sam go to check out the scene where Constance died. They talk about more family stuff and Dean gets upset with Sam for not even remembering his mom. Suddenly, they spot a ghostly woman in white jump from the bridge, and a few minutes later Dean's car starts on its own and tries to knock them down. The brothers run for it, and Dean ends up diving off the bridge. He survives, but gets pretty muddy. Hotel Dean and Sam book into the same hotel their dad was in and check out his room. There is a salt circle in front of the door, so John tried to keep something out. He also left all his stuff in the room. There are pictures stuck to the walls and Sam notices their dad had solved the puzzle. The killer spook Constance Welch is a woman in white. Dean says dad would have destroyed the corpse and Sam says maybe the ghost has another weakness. Dean says dad would still have dug her up, so they decide to go talk to the dead woman's husband to find where she's buried. First, Dean decides to get cleaned up and go for food. Sam calls Jessica. Outside the hotel, Dean is going for food when the cops arrest him for impersonating a U.S. Marshal. He does manage to call Sam first, warning him to run for it. Sheriff's office, Dean gets interrogated and is told he's a suspect in the men's disappearances. The sheriff throws Dean's dad's diary at him and asks what the numbers in it mean. Dean seems surprised to see them. Constance's husband's home, Sam visits Mr. Joseph Welch and asks if John was here. Mr. Welch says that John was there 3 or 4 days ago. Sam also asks him where Constance is buried and what happened back in 1981. Constance was buried at their old house. Sam fathoms out Joseph was unfaithful and suggests in temporary insanity. Constance killed her kids and herself when she found out, thus becoming a woman in white. She now kills unfaithful men on the highway. Joseph asks Sam to leave. Sheriff's office. The sheriff's interrogation of Dean is interrupted by an emergency call, and he leaves Dean cuffed to the desk. Dean picks the cuffs locks with a paperclip and escapes. Outside, Dean calls Sam, who is on his way to the old Welch house where Constance is buried. Dean says he knows Sam made the fake call to the sheriff to distract him. Dean says dad left his journal, though he never goes anywhere without it. He also says the numbers in their dad's diary are coordinates and their dad has left Jericho to go there. Before they can discuss more, the woman in white appears in front of Sam's car and he drives right through her. He yells, and Dean knows something is wrong. The next minute, the woman in white is in the car with Sam, asking to be taken home. When he refuses, she takes control of the car and it drives on its own. The old Welch house, the car stops and Constance says she can never go home. Sam figures she's too scared to enter. Constance jumps on Sam, intent on making him unfaithful, but he refuses to give in to her seduction. She starts to hurt him and she transforms into real, grotesque features as Sam screams. Then, Dean comes to the rescue, shooting at the spook. The distraction gives Sam enough time to drive the car straight into the house, taking Constance's spirit with him. Dean runs in and pulls Sam from the car, but Constance pins them down with a desk. It looks like their goose is cooked, but Constance's dead kids show up, just as Sam had hoped when he drove the car into the house. Constance was too scared to face her children because of the guilt of what she did. The kids take their mom's spirit back with them to the netherworld and all 3 apparitions vanish into a pool of water on the floor. Dean and Sam push free and get in their car. On the way back, they figure out their dad is in a place called Blackwater Ridge, but Sam says he isn't going. He's going back to Stanford for his interview. Stanford University. Sam seems happy to be home and smiles at the cookies lying on a table. He finds a note. Missed you. Love you. Sounds coming from the shower makes him feel Jessica is probably home. He comfortably lies down but blood splatters on him. He is horrified to see Jessica pinned to the ceiling in the same way as his mother. She bursts into flames and Dean appears at the right moment and rescues Sam. As the fire is doused down by the fire engines, Dean and Sam pack their stuff onto the car and Sam ends by saying, "We got work to do."